Hey everyone, welcome back to our Ashes Master Set unboxing. Today we are checking out Jessa Na Ni.
We are.
You can find all of our unboxings of the pre-built decks from the set right here.
Check them all out.
Check them all out.
I'm sure they're so entertaining and worth your time. I can't even believe it.
It's wild, particularly the Mayoni one because she's the best and we all know it.
Believe me, I'm not biased.
But today we're going to get to the creepy Jessa.
A strange favorite for a lot of people. There's a lot of people that like Jessa that I would not have expected to like Jessa. She's kind of out of left field. It's like, I like Jessa, and it's like, I don't take you as like a creepy, like cutting kind of a person, but turns out...
the trick is, who do you really... I don't know that really looks like what most people think it looks like.
Well, maybe not. Maybe not.
Everyone's got skeletons.
Is she noble? I mean, is she... wait, does she have a deal with somebody? What's going on with Jessa? You know what I mean? What's going on with Jessa?
She's the Phoenixborn of the Bloodwoods clan. That's all we know.
Yeah, I think that's all we need to know.
Let's dive in. Let's see if we can find out more.
The Bloodwoods?
We're going to be checking out the quotes and the art on these cards, and we'll see what kind of person Jessa is.
Compare this to Aradel. Come on.
If you're watching this and you're already a fan of Jessa and you've been offended, I'm not really sorry.
You should be. You should be.
I didn't say it.
We never seek to offend. If you're a Bloodwoods person, you know what? That's fine.
I'm not aiming to offend.
Ben's behind the camera. He loves Jessa.
The thing is, that's the trick. Don't be offended if it is what you are. Just be who you are.
Embrace it.
Love it.
Embrace
absolutely love it. All right, let's dive in. Jessa.
Cut the strings.
Battlefield 5, 18 health, spell board of 4. Pretty average stats right down the middle.
Transfer blood.
Just right down the middle. Normal battlefield spell board and health.
She's creepy.
Her ability is Screams of the Departed.
Oh yeah, that's a noble ability.
Very family-friendly Phoenixborn here. Whenever a unit under an opponent's control leaves play, you can spend a resource, basic resource, to deal a damage to their Phoenixborn.
And they always do, by the way. She always does.
Not damage.
It's not even a question. You may as well make it a permanent ability.
And then, of course, her quote is, "I don't care who bleeds, so long as there's blood."
Okay, just fine.
Oh man, no, she's
look
really
at
good, right?
Look at the full art back here.
Units leave play almost every turn of the game, and so you're going to be able to pay a resource, do a damage to Phoenixborn. Most Phoenixborn have between 16 and 20 health.
Yep.
You're just doing damage left and right.
I mean, so yeah, as I said, this ability almost always gets used, and there's some synergies in this deck that will go through here. But all right, we can't really make a judgment yet. We can't really make a judgment. It's a good ability. It's a good ability.
We know too much.
Good ability.
I've seen her before.
Perhaps it will get better.
So let's get to her card.
As time goes on. Let's talk about Fear. Now this is, I'm sorry, like all the fun damaging Phoenixborn and stuff, that's cool. Like that's totally cool. But Fear is why you run it. Fear is incredible. It's an action spell. You discard it. It's simply, how is it only a main action? That's what I don't understand.
No resources.
It costs you nothing. You literally you have to spend nothing but your time to do this.
I will say in Jessa's favor here for a second. It looks like she's trying to help a lady on the ground here. She's being a helpful steward.
Medic. Oh no, not Jessa. That's the
other man. What's going on here? Oh man.
It's not the medic we needed.
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
I'll help you. Choose a target unit under an opponent's control. If it is a conjuration, return it to its owner's conjuration pile. So put it back from whence it came. Otherwise, return it to its owner's hand. So you're saying I spend, let's say, 3 dice, 4 dice on an ally, big guy.
On your best unit.
Coming on in, boom, and then Jessa's like, put it back in your hand.
For an action.
Well, I'll tell you what, here, wait, let's put it in terms of apples in baskets,
okay.
Right? So you and I are trying to collect the most apples.
All right.
Well, you and I are racing to have the most apples on the table.
All right.
Okay, and I have $5, you have $5.
Oh, wait.
Let's say you spend $4 to place 5 apples on the table.
Okay.
And I spend no dollars to move all of those 5 apples back into your basket. I'm gonna do well, right? That seems like a favorable transaction of resources for me.
It seems okay. Basic economics would imply that this is a good card.
Get this card right out of here. No, but this is another card where you can't run the Iron Rhino. I'm telling you, it's just like...
This video should be entitled 7 Reasons You Can't Run the Iron Rhino, and it's every Phoenixborn.
Let's just justify our statements here.
The reality, though, is I love having this kind of effect in the game. Only Jessa can run it, so if you run against Jessa, you know this is going to be in their deck.
Yeah.
And it just means that if a unit is too good, it's not too good. Because you can just get rid of it, right? In a million different ways. You can focus it. There's just answers everywhere.
This is one of those cards, Zach, that does scare old Steven. Because I'm ultimately a conservative man when it comes to card games. And that this has no limit, no cap, it's like, you know, if ever there's a unit that costs 8 dice to cast and it's amazing and awesome, you can't do it. I mean, unless it's completely immune to these kinds of effects, you just can't do it.
Here's the circle of life.
You can't run the risk.
Here's the circle.
You can put 8 apples on the table, risk them all getting put back in the basket.
Here's what happens in the history of card games, which is okay, you have a bunch of, you have steady gauge, you have fear, you have these things that can just lock down a single unit. So you can't put too much resource or time or cards into a single massive threat, which is good inherently.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad that Zach agrees with me.
But then the next stage is everyone says forever you can't run the Iron Rhino, which I still think is true. But you can't put too many eggs in one basket, which is fine.
Right?
Then what happens is cards like this and Phoenixborn like this disappear.
Okay.
Because no one's running big units, and bouncing a Mist Spirit isn't doing anything.
Okay, yeah.
That's never going to be
a circle
useful.
of...
So then you end up with these situations where you have people start running bigger units because I'm going to make you deal with it here, even though you haven't been having to deal with big units for a while.
Yeah.
So I'm not scared about this card.
All right, I'm going to tell you why Zach is incorrect on this one, because
this got deep.
everybody's going to continue running Jessa, period.
Yep.
And you have Aradel, who will be in the meta,
Yep.
who has no choice but to run the Blue Jaguar, which is an answer to those big units. Mm-hmm. Jessa, who has no choice but to run an answer to those big units. I agree with Zach's premise in a normal card game where you have to choose the cards and you might slot out your control cards. You don't even have the option. Yeah. Control is here permanently, forever.
But, I mean,
and the people that run Jessa, they're not running anyone but Jessa, man. Like, they're really into Jessa.
They're Jessa people.
They're Jessa people.
But the thing is, I like
Team
it.
Jessa.
Because it just means that we're never going to have the situation where the 8-cost thing just wins you the game.
I agree.
And if it does, then your opponent really messed up.
I think if they do it, they will do it and say it's immune to effects. And then it's like, well, that's scary. Pretty scary.
That guy's good. All right, let's get to Jessa's next act of kindness, blood transfer. Ready spell. Spellboard, it's an action. It's to put it into play on your spellboard. And then it's a side action, exhaust. You have the old knife on the resource die. What is the name? Is it sacrifice?
Ceremonial.
Ceremonial, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I just got the next part of that.
It's ceremonial. Not sacrificial, that has a negative context. It's
ceremonial. Yeah, we're going to church.
Like a pep rally.
Right, exactly. A knife, a pep rally, and a heart. Deal 2 damage to a target unit you control. If you do, you may recover 2 wounds from another unit you control, or remove 1 wound token from your Phoenixborn.
All right. So probably a lot of the time, kill something you control, heal something else for 2.
Or
heal Jessa for 1.
You do 2 damage to something, recover 2.
Yeah.
That it's like towards the end of a turn, use a side action on this, recover damage from Phoenixborn.
It feels like it would be better if I could also spend a basic die to do 1 damage to my opponent's Phoenixborn when I use this card, which is Jessa's ability. So he's bewildered.
Weird. That's weird. So if yeah, it is really good. It kind of combos out. Blood transfer, it's really good.
Oh wait, you can't do that. You can't do that. All right, let's stop.
No, you do 2 damage to your unit.
Yeah, but stop it. Stop. We gotta recover from this because Jessa says opponent's unit leaves the board.
Okay. Yeah.
So you can't kill your own unit and trigger her ability. Which I thought you could do, which would be
we're going to get to some shenanigans in a minute.
All right, well, shenanigan me. Let's cut the strings. Let's cut the strings. So blood transfer.
Let's cut the strings.
Ultimately, let's leave it at this. Blood transfer for 2 dice, dealing 2 and healing 2. It doesn't light me on fire right now when I'm thinking about it. That doesn't seem like an awesome exchange for me. So let's see if maybe there's some other effects that will change.
Maybe we'll
Cut the strings. Ready spell. Spellboard. It costs a main action to get on the board there. An exhaustion and a main action and a knife and a basic symbol. Deal 2 damage to a unit you control. If you do, discard a target alteration spell. So this is a good way to control your opponent's board, whatever they might have on the table that they could hit you with. You can get rid of it, right?
Yeah.
So get rid of some root armor, get rid of some that kind of stuff. All the alterations.
This is an interesting card for me. One, the artisan. I love this. I love the out of focus background, like a killer. But it's sort of weird because
a lot of times this is useless.
It is. Your opponent has to run alterations for this to matter.
Yeah.
Not necessarily common right now. If there are some popular alterations that come out, I think this will see a lot more play. But as it sits,
what's going on, man? Jessa's just looking like a weird deck.
Well, you know.
I mean, now alterations. So that is nice that you have an answer for that. Is it that good? Well, you put it on your spell board. At least you can always have a way to.
It's a meta call.
It is a meta call.
Do you expect to see alterations or not? If you do, you got an answer.
All right.
Next up, let's talk about the Undying Heart.
I want to talk about the Undying Heart.
Yeah, her love of life and hearts and things is just continuing to shine through. And notice that
in this art there is a blood archer. So this is important that maybe she has some good synergy with those guys.
I just want to read this quote before we dive into this card. This meat is still yet mine.
Okay, cool.
As an action and for a heart and a basic, you can attach this alteration spell to a unit, +2 life, recover 2. Also has respark 2, so when it would leave play, you can spend 2 basic resources.
So
put it back in
this
your
is
hand.
a super interesting card for me. Recover 2 is fascinating because recover is one of those abilities that is either very useful or entirely useless, and oftentimes the latter. Because in the game of Ashes, as in any game, you're generally looking to make trades that are happening immediately, not over time. So like for things like Mist Typhoon and Cole's abilities and these kinds of things where you're trying to slowly stack up damage, it's a great answer to that. But for things that are like do 4 to this thing, do 3 to this thing, you're usually trying to focus fire in such a way that you're going to get the kill by committing to that action.
Totally.
So if you had some hidey abilities where you can throw stuff in front of things on surprises and try to get damage where people aren't expecting it to go, those kinds of things, pretty useful. And also, of course, blood transfer kind of starting to work on some things here. Move 2 over here to this guy who's not going to recover it, which, I didn't expect that to happen, these kinds of things. But, it's still a very nuanced spell. She has a certain serious synergy going on to all of these cards that you can't really imagine them being pulled out and just get kind of slapped in other decks.
Sure.
Like Mist Typhoon, it's like, everybody might want to run that. But these kinds of cards are very specific to what she's trying to do.
I think this pairs really well with the cards we've already seen, which is do 2 damage to 1 unit to move it over here, essentially, and recover over here. So you put this on something, it immediately makes that a unit you can move 2 damage to and then recover. Because it also gets the +2 health, so it's harder to kill.
Yeah. All right. So she's looking like a very techie kind of deck where you really have to be on it to make the most out of Jessa and move damage around and have your head about you.
Sure.
To make it work. Let's talk about Redirect. It's a reaction spell. You discard it. It's a heart to cast. Very scared crossbowman there, seeing his arrow going somewhere else.
Sideways.
Also got a lot of blood on him. Just saying. It's not Jessa's fault. I'm just saying that.
Definitely wasn't Jessa.
You may play this spell when your Phoenixborn would take damage and you have at least 1 unit that you control in play. Okay, you control a unit, you got it in play, you have one of those. Do not deal that damage to your Phoenixborn, instead deal it to a target unit you control.
I love this card.
Now we're getting somewhere.
I love this card.
Universal value is through the roof on this one.
Yeah, it's like, I have a Mist Spirit sitting over her, and you hit me for 5 with that, is it 5 or 6 with Iron Rhino?
Oh, it's not even worth knowing.
We're going back to the Iron Rhino.
Not even worth knowing.
Anyways, Iron Rhino finally gets his moment in the sun. He strikes for all the damage. Then you'll pay a heart and put it on the Mist Spirit, because why not? And you can put it on a unit, right, that's not exhausted, or that is exhausted.
Yep.
So I blocked with a unit, and then
or put it on the thing that's going to recover too. This is just good. It's a great amount of protection here.
It's like a get out of jail free card, by the way. I've had moments, Steven's eyes light up, and it's like, I'm finally going to get you. You're going to lose here, and it's like, I'll redirect.
This is one of those cards that's in the game, and you've played a masterful first turn. You have outwitted Zach over and over again. You've gotten things lined out and set up. He wasn't expecting this card in your opening hand, and now you have this opportunity. Maybe you master grow something. You're going to swing for 6. Here it is, the big moment. All of his stuff's exhausted, and instead,
denied.
He has his little Mist Spirit over there, his little Gilder.
And
you just throw it right on the mouse, and there it goes. And then next turn,
go on
mark it 0, next frame kind of a thing.
Mark it 0.
It's really frustrating sometimes.
Yeah, but and that's where it's always funny when you play in a game and it's like your opponent thinks they've outthought you. And it's like, well, the reason I was that aggressive is that I knew I could redirect my damage twice, so why wouldn't I do it?
That's the reason.
All right, let's talk about Final Cry. Reaction spell, you discard it, you have to use a ghost.
Is Jessa dead?
That's not Jessa, that's her.
It looks.
Let me show you. Let me find. All right, we'll get to her in a minute.
Okay.
Final Cry. Reaction spell.
The living doll, right?
There it is.
Yeah.
You may play this spell when a unit you control is destroyed. Deal 2 damage to a target unit or Phoenixborn.
Okay, now we're seeing it. And this is a unit you control is destroyed.
Yep.
So when an opponent's unit leaves play, you can spend 1 to deal damage to Phoenixborn. When your unit leaves play, deal 2 damage to spend. I mean, let me tell you, there's one win condition as far as I know, and it's killing the opponent's Phoenixborn. So this card is literally as directly contributing to that goal as possible. It's like molten gold.
Yeah, and your opponent's units are certainly going to be leaving play.
They are. I mean, that's just the way the game works.
The nature of the game. It's a good card.
All right, let's talk about the Blood Archer. It is an ally, comes onto your battlefield there. It looks very much like the Jessa-themed set. Has a main action to cast, as well as a knife, a heart, and 2 basics. This is 4 dice invested in this guy. 4 dice invested. Attack of 3, life of 3, recover 2, so pretty straightforward there. Blood Oath of 2. When you are declaring attackers, you may add 2 attack to this unit for the remainder of this turn. If you do, place 2 wounds on that unit.
So when he attacks, he can go up to 5.
He can go up to 5 for taking 2 damage, and battle advantage. When he's in a battle, it inflicts its damage before other units before battle advantage inflict their damage. So let's say you attack with him, you pump him to 5, and then your opponent has a choice. Throw something in front that can't counter because it just dies. Because anything that's hitting for 5 is pretty much wiping anything else
Because
out.
of battle advantage, right? He'll get a strike before they get a strike.
Or you take 5 to your Phoenixborn. You know, or you throw a unit. Either way, like there's a lot happening. He has a natural recover of 2. Heaven forbid he has a life of +2, so life of 5 with recover 4. Now we're getting somewhere. So we're starting to see how this is going. The Undying Heart is a real card on this Blood Archer.
Yeah, and I actually my favorite way to use a Blood Archer is on defense.
Whoa!
Because battle advantage goes that direction.
It does go that direction.
So if he's just sitting there, you really can't attack.
He's got 3 damage waiting to just snipe you before you get to do anything.
He really shuts down just a lot.
Aside from those Seaside Ravens.
Well, good call.
Battle advantage.
All right,
Hello.
Living Doll. Let's get to the next ally. Goes onto the battlefield for an action, a knife, a heart, and a basic. 0 attack, 3 life, 1 recover. Pain Link. Whenever this unit receives damage, you can spend a resource to inflict X amount of damage to a target unit or Phoenixborn. X is the damage received or this unit's life value, whichever is less.
Yep. That seems really good.
So what I like to do is I actually played the Living Doll outside of Jessa, but you have a Living Doll.
This is such a good card. This is the most annoying card of all time.
Yeah, and you know what's really good about it is that the ceremonial ability is spin the top level die to get an ally out of your discard pile.
Yep.
You deal damage to your Phoenixborn equal to their attack.
It's 0.
So the Living Doll can just keep coming back,
and
which
it does.
I really like doing.
It does.
But redirecting on the Living Doll is ludicrous.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you did 4 to me. I'm going to redirect the 4 to my Living Doll. I'm going to pay a resource and do 3 to you. And so it's just a ton of damage happening.
Oh man, it's just so good. Why is this the greatest card? Jessa, we're seeing with Jessa a very real theme, which is again burning the Phoenixborn down directly through these very bizarre and frustrating control locks that she's slowly putting on the board, where you realize that as you unbury yourself from her threats, you're losing the game. Yeah. Like I've run into this situation so many times, and
it's like I'm removing your units and hurting myself. Like this is weird.
It feels very Jessa, let me tell you. Well, let's move on. How about the Leech Warrior?
Well, let's get to the Leech Warrior, man.
This guy is really, really cool. He sacrificed his mouth and he put it right on his hand.
That is what happened.
So if you've ever said to yourself, talk to the hand, the Leech Warrior is your guy. This is a...
How did he get his tongue in there?
Hey, listen, man. I don't want to ask questions about this deck. I think that gets us down into a weird rabbit hole that we're not willing to discuss on camera.
All right.
Let's talk about Leech Warrior. Main action, 2 knives and 1 basic symbol. Has 2 attack, 3 life, and 3 recover. Well, that's curious.
That's smart.
How would that work?
Strong.
Shadow Drain 1. When this unit receives 1 or more damage, you may select 1 die in a target player's active pool and place it in the exhausted pool. So you throw him in front of an attack, or if he's countered, you move a die over. Or Shadow Link and all sorts of just bizarre shadow blood effects.
Let me find it. Blood transfer.
Yep.
Move damage to this guy, get rid of 1 of your dice, and then it's like, well, do you really want to kill the Leech Warrior?
Oh, so good.
And it's like
he recovers.
Yeah, he recovers unless you kill him. So you have like the Blood Archer does 2 to himself, and then you blood transfer the 2 over to the Leech Warrior and trigger. Blood Archer can go again, and it's just blah, blah,
It's just a big old ceremony, isn't it?
It is a big dance with lots of candles and weird things happening.
Jessa, you gross.
All right, let's get to Summon Blood Puppet. It is a ready spell board. It costs an action to put it into play. Action, exhaust, and a knife. Place a Blood Puppet conjuration onto a target player's battlefield. So we'll get here in a second. The Blood Puppet, which is just ludicrously creepy art, man. Anyways, 0 attack, 2 life, 0 recover. So not doing too much. Curse 1 at the end of each round. Place 1 wound token on your Phoenixborn. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Self-inflict. As a side action, it can do 1 and a resource. It can deal damage to this unit itself.
Right.
So essentially, you summon the Blood Puppet onto your opponent's battlefield.
Yes. And that gives them a really bizarre game to start playing.
Because at the end of each round, for every Blood Puppet on their side of the field, they're going to take a damage.
Yep.
They can also spend a side action.
More importantly, actually, they're going to place 1 wound token, which gets around a lot of effects that are going to prevent taking damage directly.
Totally.
So like it's a done deal, basically.
Yeah. Now, the real thing that the first time I played against Jess, I was using Mayoni. It was a very small battle.
3, by the way.
And so it was like, Blood Puppet. And I was like, uh-oh. And then it was like, okay. And then I played a spell, and then like, they focused the spell, and I was like, oh my goodness. And then they put another blood puppet out, and I was like,
where am I gonna put my snakes?
Where are the snakes gonna go? I have a Gilder and 2 blood puppets out, and it's like, what do I even do?
Yeah, it feels gross.
But the blood puppets are really annoying. You have to spend resources and time getting rid of them. They take up spots on your battlefield.
I don't have a good answer for this.
Now, they are units, though. And so what I learned is that you can attack with it.
Yeah.
And boost it with, like, Mayoni.
And block with it.
And
do all
block
those
with
things,
it.
yeah.
So it's just a weird style of play. Like
Yeah, it's weird.
It's bizarre.
It's
but
weird.
It's really good, actually.
Let me say this. Okay, so we got through this.
Also, Jessa's ability, when an opponent's unit leaves play, is when she triggers. So the blood puppet, naturally you want to get rid of the blood puppet.
Pulls the strings. This is a very serious. This basically kind of locks in Jessa's playstyle, at least out of the core box. And I will say this about this deck: it is one of the most interesting and exciting ways to play this game because it completely changes the rules and shifts the decisions and the hard decision points away from what they usually are with opponents' units and tempo, and it kind of becomes this different game that you have to learn how to play. With that said, I would heavily suggest that as you're learning Ashes, you stay as far away from this constructed deck.
Do not start
as
with Jessa.
Possible.
Don't start with Jessa.
This has the potential to frustrate whoever you're teaching beyond belief because it's hard to figure out exactly how you're supposed to use this deck
or play
how you're supposed to play against it. And all of a sudden, it's like I can't win. I'm taking damage from these blood puppets. How do I kill him? So stay away from this. Do some more straightforward, like Cole is a very straightforward deck. Aerodel is a pretty straightforward deck.
Mayoni's even pretty straightforward.
Yeah, learn the way that Ashes works before you jump into Jessa, and then have a great time with it.
I was going to
it's a very
say,
special deck.
the important part of that, addendum to that, and I totally agree, I don't want to start with Jessa. I don't want anyone to start with Jessa ever. But is that once you understand how the fundamentals of the game work, it's incredible that just out of the base set, they can introduce a totally new way of playing the game.
Yeah, and break the rules just
in
immediately.
this deck. And we're going to see more of that with more of the Phoenixborn, and it's just so cool to be able to turn the game sideways and upside down and backwards and just weird stuff with all these different Phoenixborn. So it's really incredible, just starter set.
There it is, guys. There's Jessa, the noble, the bold, the positive.
Coming to a ceremony near you.
Coming to a ceremony near you.
Thank you guys so much for watching.
Yeah, thanks for watching. We have Covenant subscriptions if you want to get all of your Ashes releases delivered right to your door. We do that for you, so check that out. And we've got more unboxings for all of the Ashes Master Set, running through every single one of the Phoenixborn. So go see us over there, and we'll catch you there. Thank you.
See you guys.